And when I was there, I saw what was happening. It's not just about women being half naked. It's not about women's hypersexuality. No, Freaknik is about men ogling, men fondling. Freaknik had a lot to do with male hypermasculinity and sexual violence. Freaknik is a rape fest. It is a sexual assault fest. Nigga, you's a bitch.
What's good, everybody? It's your brother Mad Black, the most dangerous and most toxic black man on the internet, and I am black up in your face again with some more pro-black commentary. Speaking of toxic, I can't believe that we are sitting here in the year 2023 and actually talking about Freaknik. I can't believe it, folks. So, it was announced, I think it was last week, that Jermaine Dupri and the network Hulu would be producing an actual documentary about Atlanta's Freaknik Festival, and that they were going to, show some never before seen footage of the early Freaknik days like 1994, 95, and that they were going to, put that out there in a documentary. So when that got announced, social media, or at least black social media, kind of blew up with the information. And, people were kind of making jokes and kind of laughing about it, saying people are going to start seeing their mothers or their aunties or, some of the ladies in the church shaking it up on top of cars and whatnot back during the mid to late 90s. And even I made the joke saying that, a lot of these older folks who like to wag their finger at young people and kind of point their finger at young people, saying how young folks are, debased and like to engage in debauchery, they're going to be exposed now because they're going to be shown in this documentary participating in all of the activities that they look down upon at Freaknik. And, it is an interesting dynamic because, a lot of those folks can kind of sit back and, wag their finger and be judgmental simply because, social media did not exist back then. So a lot of things were not put on camera. But, there were people out there at Freaknik with their little camcorders and video camera equipment. It wasn't prevalent, obviously. This was not something that was widely had. And, normally back then, people were still taking Polaroid pictures. You know what I'm saying? So there are people out there with classic Polaroid pictures of Freaknik and their time that they had there. But, there are a few people out there who had video cameras and they got the footage on VHS. So all they got to do is be able to convert those old VHS tapes or those old camcorder tapes and put them on a digital file out there, and it'll be out for mass consumption in this documentary. So, first of all, let me just say this about the whole Freaknik thing. No, I did not go to Freaknik. Okay, I was too young for it. All right, I was in the mid 90s. I was still a teenager in high school, so I could not go to something like that. I had never even been to Georgia or Atlanta by that time. Okay, so I missed the whole Freaknik thing. But I will say, yes, I did go to the Greek Fest in New Jersey. And even though I was probably too young for it, I managed to sneak my way in. Okay. And Greek Fest was basically the same thing as Freaknik. You had a lot of black fraternities hanging out on the New Jersey beach in Asbury Park. And, people, a lot of young people were getting wild there. Okay. I think it was me, my little brother, and one of his friends. We went there, and these other two girls one who I kind of liked at first, but, she was a little too fast for me. I'll just say that. But we went to the Greek Fest in summer of, I want to say, 97. So I was 16 years old at the time, and we convinced some of our older neighbors to take us there because they thought that because it was the Greek Fest of, the black fraternities getting together and, in brotherhood. They thought it was going to be something nice and wholesome. It was not. Okay, I guess there was some of that there, but there was a lot of debauchery, and there were a lot of people who were a lot older than me in their early 20s getting down on the beach. Okay, and what was funny about the whole situation was I still knew a lot of those people because a lot of them were either, cousins of mine or they were friends of my siblings, my older siblings. So like it was funny, like I would see some of those girls there and they would be like, what are you doing here? How'd you get in here? I was like, well, it's open to the public. I can be here. They would say like I shouldn't be there or whatever because they knew what people were going to be doing there, right? And I even tried to, I was unsuccessful, but I tried to, at 16 years old, tried to be a judge of the swimsuit competition, okay? They would not allow me to do that. So I guess they had some sense about them. But, I've been to that. So I can kind of get a sense of what Freaknik was or what it was all about. But, I don't really judge anyone that was involved in that type of thing because young people do crazy things, and it's not a racial thing. So this is not something that should be totally focused on black people. There are people across the board who get crazy. They're in college, they're away from home for the first time. There's alcohol involved, there's drugs involved, and even if that wasn't involved, just the fact that they're away from home for the first time and they're away from any type of adult supervision, young people just get crazy. So people in their late teens, like 18, 19, up to like 25, that's just what they do. And like I said, this is across the board. This is not a racial thing. This is not something that should just be focused on black people because we all know white spring breaks are just as crazy. I've been to some of those parties and they were crazier than the black girls. The white girls even worse. Okay, but I don't blame anybody for participating in certain things like this, or I won't look down upon them now. I mean, it is what it is. Okay, but I just don't like the hypocrisy of it. As far as like if you get older and you're just wagging the finger. Now, if you're trying to say I made the same mistake, don't make my mistake, I can understand that from a adult perspective, trying to teach younger people not to make the same mistakes you did. But if you were out there doing that and you're trying to hide that and now you're embarrassed by Freaknik pictures or videos coming up, that's totally different. I don't like hypocrisy. Now, that being said, I do believe that this Freaknik documentary is going to be used to criminalize black people in the black community, especially black males, okay? Because there's already been a drumbeat of these black liberals out here making it seem as if, Freaknik was all about rape culture and toxic masculinity and, black men just being evil and dirty and abusing black women. And I'm letting you know, brothers, if you appear in any of these Freaknik videos in this documentary, don't be surprised if you come up on charges. Okay, don't be surprised if you're prosecuted or something like that now. Okay, and don't think it can't happen. If they can get Bill Cosby on some nonsense and hearsay, they can get you too. Very easily, by the way. I know you don't have the money, the legal defense and everything else that Bill Cosby had, and he still went to jail. Don't think it can't happen to you, okay? And based off something you did at Freaknik, thinking you were just having fun with these girls or whatever, and you're accused of doing something that was considered rapish or sexual assault, right? And like I said, these black liberals are going to participate in this, just the same way they participated in helping to lock up Bill Cosby and R. Kelly and trying to demonize Michael Jackson and whatnot. Like, let's listen to bubble-lipped Mark Lamoist Hill, okay? Because he's one of the ones already putting it out there that it's all Freaknik was all about rape culture, and he said he was there and he saw black men being bad. Now, of course, he wasn't doing anything wrong, right? He wasn't doing anything wrong. I'm sure he was out there. He probably had on some biker booty shorts or a thong, and he was probably busting his little bussy open on top of a car or something like that, on top of a Ford Explorer or something like that, right? But let's listen to what he has to say about Freaknik and quote unquote black male rape culture. Let's listen.
Freaknik documentary. A whole bunch of people talking about whose names and faces and voices and bodies are going to show up on this video from the 90s. And most of the conversation is about whether or not women will be exposed on this documentary, whether people's mamas and girlfriends and wives and daughters are going to show up in a Freaknik documentary. And I hear you. But that's the wrong issue. Look, I was outside in the 90s. I've been to Freaknik as an aspiring young journalist covering the story, of course. And when I was there, I saw what was happening. It's not just about women being half naked. It's not about women's hypersexuality. No, Freaknik is about men ogling, men fondling. Freaknik had a lot to do with male hypermasculinity and sexual violence. Freaknik is a rape fest. It is a sexual assault fest. That's not the only.
He called it a rape fest. God damn, Lamont, you big dummy.
Only thing going on out there. I'm not trying to demonize or pathologize black people, but
yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes, that's exactly what you just did. You just did it. You say he's not trying to do that, but that's exactly what you just did, Lamont. Let me replay that, just so you guys can get the gist of it and understand what's coming for you when this documentary does come out.
Men ogling, men fondling. Freaknik had a lot to do with male hypermasculinity and sexual violence. Freaknik is a rape fest. It is a sexual assault fest. That's not the only thing going on out there. I'm not trying to demonize or pathologize black people, but if we're talking about the worst parts of Freaknik, it wasn't about the actions of women. It was about the disgusting actions of us men. And so when you watch Freaknik, you don't need to be worried about mama, daughter, sister, girlfriend. You need to be worried about brother, son, husband, or yourself, and whether or not you were engaged in some of the worst parts of patriarchal culture, whether you were part of the worst parts of rape culture and misogyny and sexual violence. When we talk about Freaknik and the way we talk about Freaknik, it's a representation of all the problems we have in a society.
And I hope and I pray that if Mark Lamont Hill was at Freaknik, I hope he's caught out there doing something inappropriate. I hope that happens. I'm praying that happens because I want his dumb ass to be brought up on charges. I hope he's caught out there slapping some girl on the ass. I hope he's caught out there looking up some girl's skirt or something like that, or having some girl dance with him, so we can all say that he was a part of toxic black masculinity and he needs to be brought up on charges. We need to find those women and get them to say that Mark Lamont Hill abused them or touched them in some way or sexually assaulted them, so he can go to jail like Bill Cosby did and be shown for the sick and toxic black male that he truly is. I hope that happens. Now, you folks can let me know how you feel about this whole Freaknik documentary in the comments section. You can let me know if you actually attended such things. Like I said, I'm not going to judge you, okay? Because I've, if there was a camera around when I was in my early 20s or late teens, like when I was like 18, 19, hanging out with my buddies at Miami strip clubs and whatnot, I would probably not find that flattering either. Now, I'm not ashamed of it because I know I didn't do anything wrong, but I guess it could be considered somewhat embarrassing, but I don't really even consider it that. It is what it is. It happens. Like, if I was the only one doing it, I would feel weird. But if there's everyone else is there doing it and, people still make jokes about it till today, or girls, I know I never abused or hurt anybody. In fact, I was probably more square and trying to tell girls not to do that, and they go do it anyway. But you can't control. I've learned as an older person now that you can't control how people are going to act or how they don't care how they're being viewed or whatever. Okay. But you folks can let me know how you feel about it in the comments section. Anyway, Mad Black, and I will be back with my foot on a devil's back.